finding new ways to thrive when things are changing around you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, in a world that's changing as fast as ours, that ability to adapt, to find new solutions, it's more important than ever.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about who pastoralists are, the challenges they faced under colonial rule, and some of the amazing ways they adapted. But I feel like the story doesn't end there, does it?
It doesn't. These communities are still around today.
Right.
And they're facing a whole new set of challenges in the 21st century.
Yeah, so it's like adaptation 2.0.
It is. I mean, they've shown they can adapt to political pressures, economic pressures, but what about climate change?
Oh, wow.
What about urbanization? How will they navigate those challenges?
That's a huge question.
It is.
And that sounds like a deep dive for another day.
For another day.
But for now, we'll have to leave it there. I mean, it's almost like we need like a whole new language to even talk about these new challenges.
Yeah.
It's not just adaptation anymore. It's like reinventing a whole way of life in the face of like these global forces.
I mean, these communities, they're really on the front lines of climate change. They're seeing the effects firsthand. Shifting weather patterns, droughts, resource scarcity. Imagine, those traditional grazing lands, the foundation of their livelihood, becoming more and more unpredictable.
And then on top of that, you've got, the pressure of urbanization,
right?
Land grabbing, resources being commodified.
It's like they're being squeezed from all sides. I mean, it's like the very spaces they've, traditionally inhabited, the landscapes that have shaped their culture, they're undergoing this massive transformation. And that traditional knowledge that's helped them adapt for centuries, I mean, it might not be enough this time.
Yeah, it makes you think about, that term climate refugees.
Right.
We often hear that in the context of, coastal communities, people being displaced by rising sea levels. Could we be seeing something similar with pastoralists?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, forced to abandon their lands because of these climate-induced changes. It's a real possibility. And it raises so many questions.
Yeah.
About, their cultural heritage, their knowledge systems, their way of life. What happens to all of that?
Right, because it's not just an economic issue or a policy issue. It's about, human rights, cultural survival. It's about their right to exist, really.
Absolutely.
In the face of all of this. And it's not even just the direct impacts, right? Like the droughts or the floods. There's indirect consequences as well.
Right, yeah. I mean, think about the potential for conflict.
Yeah.
As those resources become more scarce, competition over grazing land, water between pastoralists and other groups, farmers, developers, it's likely to escalate.
It's like a perfect storm.
It is.
And sadly, we've seen this time and time again. It's often the most vulnerable communities who bear the brunt of these massive global shifts.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's a reminder that these issues are interconnected. I mean, climate change, it doesn't happen in isolation.
Right.
It makes existing inequalities worse.
Yeah.
And it often hits those who contributed the least to the problem the hardest.
Right. And those who have, historically lived in harmony with nature, they're now facing the consequences of others' actions. It's a real injustice.
It is. But, even with all of that said, even with all these challenges, and they are huge challenges, I still have faith in the resilience of these communities.
I mean, they've shown us time and time again their ability to adapt, to find creative solutions. I mean, they have so much knowledge to draw from.
They do.
And such a strong sense of community. It gives you hope.
It does. It does. I mean, it's a powerful reminder that even when we're talking about these massive global challenges, individual actions, community-based solutions, they can make a difference.
So I have to ask then, I mean, what can we do, as individuals to support these communities and work towards a more, sustainable and just future for them? Because it all just feels so huge.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the first step is really just educating ourselves. Becoming more aware of the challenges that pastoralists are facing, and then, amplifying their voices, supporting organizations that are working directly with these communities, and advocating for policies that, prioritize human rights, environmental justice, all of that.
Yeah, because I think you're right. It's about recognizing that there are different ways of knowing and being in the world.
Right.
And that diversity, cultural and ecological diversity is essential for the planet.
Absolutely. We need to learn from the way that pastoralists have lived in relationship with nature for all these centuries.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that we're all connected. Our actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And working together to create a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's a perfect place to kind of wrap up this part of our conversation. But we're not done yet. We'll be back after a short break to continue our deep dive into the world of pastoralism.
It's fascinating, right? We're talking about all these challenges, but pastoralists have always been adapting.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they've had to survive, right?
Right.
In these often really harsh environments. But it does feel like the scale of change now is just...
It's different.
Yeah, it's a whole other level.
It's a different beast. In the past, they might have, changed their migration routes a bit because of a drought.
Right.
Or maybe adjusted like the types of animals in their herds because of grazing.
Right.
But now it's global forces, climate change, urbanization, market pressures. I mean, it's reshaping the whole landscape, literally.
Yeah. It's like they're being asked to adapt to a whole new planet.
It is.
Not just a different season or a slight shift in the resources.
That's a huge question. Yeah. Do you think, all those adaptations we talked about before, all those incredible displays of resilience, do you think that can really prepare them for what's coming?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Their traditional knowledge it's invaluable, of course. Understanding animal behavior, reading the weather, that deep connection to the land.
Right.
It's all incredibly important, but whether it's enough to deal with the sheer scale of the challenges in the 21st century, well, I don't know.
Yeah. It makes me think of that saying, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results.
Right.
It's not just about resilience anymore. It's about
information.
Yeah, like really rethinking how they live and interact with the world.
I think that's key. We often think of adaptation as like tweaking things a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making small adjustments. But sometimes it needs to be more fundamental,
Yeah.
A willingness to maybe let go of some things that aren't working anymore.
And that must be so hard.
Oh, it is.
Especially for communities whose identity is so tied to their traditions.
Yeah.
To the knowledge that's been passed down.
It's asking them to change who they are, really.
It is. So I guess, given all of that, what role can we play? Outsiders. We've talked about awareness, about advocating for policies, but is there more we can do to directly support these communities in adapting without, telling them what to do or undermining their culture?
Yeah, I think it comes down to respect, really. Respecting their agency, their knowledge, their right to decide their own future.
So it's not about like swooping in with solutions.
Yeah.
It's about working with them,
It's about partnership, listening to their needs.
Yeah.
And providing resources that can empower them to make their own choices.
So instead of saying, here's how you need to change, it's saying, hey, here are some tools, some resources.
Exactly.
How can we help you use these in a way that works for you?
Exactly. And that support can look like a lot of things. It could be funding for education, for training,
right.
Maybe helping them access new markets, providing some technical expertise on sustainable practices.
Right.
Or even just helping to amplify their voices on a larger stage.
So there's no like one-size-fits-all solution.
No.
Just like there's no one-size-fits-all adaptation strategy.
Right.
It's about really understanding each community's unique situation and finding ways to empower them.
Yeah.
And that's where the hope is, right?
Yeah, I think so. Their ingenuity, their adaptability, that connection to the land, that's what sustained them for so long. And with the right kind of support, it can continue to guide them through whatever comes next.
Well said. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive. And to our listeners, we hope this has given you a glimpse into this incredible world, the world of pastoralism.
It's a fascinating world.
It's a world that's often misunderstood, I think.
Yeah.
But it holds, I think, really valuable lessons for all of us about resilience.